our day in history class today. Today we are going to start about England in America, or England in the New World. This is really exciting. I love this time in American history. We're going to talk about Pocahontas and lost colonies of Roanoke and really fun things. So I want you to sit back and enjoy as we spend a little time together learning about the English in America. So the first thing we want to think about is, why did the English want to come to America in the first place? So they came for three main reasons. They wanted religious freedom, economic hopes, and they didn't want Spain to have all of the New World. Okay, so what do those mean? That's what we're going to look at next. So first of all, religious freedoms. We, go back to your world history studies, and you learned about the Protestant Reformation. Okay, that's when you had a Christian church, and then with that Protestant Reformation, it split to Catholics and Protestants, both falling under Catholicism, but you have Catholics and Protestants. So the Protestant Reformation is that split of the Christian church. Happens in the 16th century. Again, go back to your global studies. Men like Martin Luther, Henry VIII, John Calvin, all kind of becoming Protestant leaders. That's going to be really important. So what happens there is that different groups, particularly we're looking at America, we're looking at the different groups of Protestants, were coming to America to escape persecution. So what the heck does that mean? What does it mean to be escaping this persecution? Well, in England, so we're gonna get rid of the Catholics for 1 second. We're not gonna talk about that because that's gonna be a whole different issue in England. So if we're looking at those different Protestant groups in England, okay, those Protestant groups, not all of them are welcomed. So England is an Anglican country. It was founded by, as far as the Protestant Reformation goes, it was founded by Henry VIII, and it's an Anglican country. So any of those Protestant groups that don't fall within that Anglican group are going to be persecuted, meaning they're not going to be welcome. They're going to be hated on. They're going to be disliked. So they need a place to live and to go. Now we can grab those Catholics back. They don't do so good in England. They still don't do so good in England. So those Catholics are also going to be part of that group of non-Anglican people who are getting persecuted. We're not going to see them they're going to get into Maryland. We're not really going to talk about them today. But again, I said Henry VIII creates the Church of England, also known as the Anglican Church. And anyone who's not Anglican is going to feel less. They're going to be hated on. Okay? So that crackdown by the English is going to lead to the migration of Puritans, Catholics, and Quakers. So those are some of the three main groups that are going to leave. They're going to migrate. They're going to leave England so that they're going to come to the New World in hope for this religious freedom. These are the Pilgrims and all that sort of stuff. These are the same groups. Okay, so that's one reason why they're coming over here. They're coming over for those religious freedoms. There's Henry. God, he's a handsome-looking fellow, huh? All right. There's Henry VIII. All right, now we're going to look at economic hopes. Show me the money, right? So people are going to come to America because they want money. These people were often referred to as adventurers. They got money, they were sponsored, and people who wanted to have like good old-fashioned adventures, okay? They think that the United States is filled with gold. I don't know the last time any of you have gone to like the East Coast of America and struck it big in gold. In fact, searching my mental mind of history here, that doesn't happen. Like ever. The amounts of gold on the East Coast of America are slim to none. Okay, but these people thought that there was a lot of gold in the Americas, which gets to California, to Alaska. There are decent amounts of gold in the United States, but that is so far off their scale. They have no contact, though the concept that those two places even exist. Okay, the East Coast does not have that gold. But what they do discover, however, is that this is a great area for growing tobacco, and it allows this area, and by this area I'm referring to the East Coast, particularly the southern East Coast of the United States, to grow tobacco, and it allows for trade with North America and the English colonies and England. And this is huge. This is huge. There's a hope that we can find the legendary Northwest Passage. The heck is the Northwest Passage? Well, Northwest Passage is a route from the East Coast of the United States through an all-water route through the United States that would take us to the Pacific Ocean. Doesn't exist. Well, thanks to global warming, it does exist now, but that I'm not going to get into that. That's for those of us later on who want to talk a little further into that. But let's, for the purpose of this idea here, until like 2015, there is no Northwest Passage. Okay, there is no all-water route access from the East Coast of America to the Pacific Ocean. Does not exist, but they want to find it. These original colonists want to find that all-water route. It's actually the goal of Lewis and Clark in the 1800s, is to find that water route. But that's one reason why the English want to make sure they get here, because if they can be the ones to find that all-water route passage to the west coast of the Pacific Ocean, they will have access to it. They will control that. That's kind of the goal. And here's our map. And if you look at this map, the concept, I'm not very good at pointing to this on my screen here. So let's hope I got this right. So if we have our East Coast, the idea would be that you'd be able to go across into the Pacific Ocean. Okay, it doesn't exist. The other reason, too, was that England did not want Spain to have all of the New World. That's referring to control. The Spanish had come over to the New World, and they had been quite comfortable. They had settled a lot of South America, Central America. The English and the Spanish don't get along, partly because England is Anglican, part of that Church of England that we talked about before, and Spain is Catholic. This is a time, not that, this world isn't perfect either, but religion is going to be really important as far as control in this time, 15th century. And those two countries and those two religions hate each other, so they don't want the other person to gain, or that other entity to gain too much power. And one of the things that were being done were that they were sending sea dogs, which are like 2 steps away from pirates, to threaten Spanish ships. Okay, and some of the most famous ones are Sir Francis Drake and Sir John Hawkins, who were pirates, sea dogs, privateers, who were threatening Spanish ships. So they were really trying to, again, we're showing this power. England's not wanting Spain to have all the power in the New World. And there's Sir Francis Drake and Sir Hawkins. Okay, so then once the English got to America, they settled first in Roanoke. Roanoke is off the now the state of North Carolina. It's very close to the Outer Banks, which is right along the coast. And this colony was established in 1584 And it is the first English colony. Oh, there we said. And it was Sir Walter Raleigh, it was his enterprise, meaning that it was him who took it on. Queen Elizabeth I in England was the one who said, sure, go ahead, sounds great. Roanoke is the first, where the first New World English person is born. A girl named Virginia Drake, I believe. No, I can't remember her name, but the first child born of English descent was during the first colony of Roanoke. All right. And the idea would be that it would privatize a base from which they could steal treasures from the Spanish. So, unfortunately, and there's a nice picture of Roanoke. There's one of kind of the traditional maps. So, unfortunately, though, what happens is they lose Roanoke. What in the world? What is she talking about? Well, they went to explore the eastern seacoast to the north, and in 1589, the Outer Bank area was the beginning of the worst periods of drought in over 400 years. Some of the natives were willing to barter for food and trinkets in the early days, but when they progressed into winter, the natives became more reluctant to trade with them. Sir Francis Drake arrived in June. He took the colonists back to England. Shortly after Drake's fleet left, Grenville and the surpluses arrived, finding the colony had been abandoned, and Grenville decided to return to England with the bulk of his force. So that's the first time we lose Roanoke. We lose Roanoke 2 times. So what happens the second time? This is kind of the way more famous. So this is when we talk about the losing of Roanoke, this is really the part we're talking about. So we try this again, and in 1587, another group come by. Okay, another group come by to go to Roanoke again, and they're led by a man named John White. And they come with 15 men, and 15 men were there. They were never found, and they moved the settlement further north the next time. When White returned, he found it deserted, and they don't know what happened. There are some theories that they may have been taken by natives in the area. There were 2 major tribes that lived in this area. So just kind of a fun story. The other thing I want to touch on today is the first permanent English settlement in the Americas. And that's a pretty famous one. We're looking at the establishment of Jamestown. Okay, Jamestown is established near the James River, about 60 miles from the north, from the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. This is, I mean, if you are a Pocahontas Disney movie fan, this is the thing we're talking about. So Jamestown is named after King James of England, and it's known for for John Smith and Pocahontas. So a little bit of story there. So let's assume everyone has seen the Disney movie where John Smith and Pocahontas fall deeply in love, and Pocahontas saves John Smith's life and all that wonderful stuff. Well, part of it is true, part of it is not true. These two were together for a while, in love. I'm not so sure about. Pocahontas was the favorite daughter of Powhatan, who was the leader of the Powhatans, who were the native tribe that lived in the area. Pocahontas had developed a relationship with the settlers of Jamestown all over, and particularly of John Smith. And ultimately, John Smith left, and ultimately Pocahontas marries a man named John Rolfe. And John Rolfe is actually credited with bringing tobacco and really starting tobacco in Jamestown. and Pocahontas. So those two get married. They have a couple kids. Pocahontas actually changes her name to Rebecca, and does spend time in England with John Rolfe, her husband, and goes by the name of Rebecca from kind of this point on. And some of the key reasons why, or to understand too, that first Jamestown was really unsuccessful. The men, because there were only men at the very beginning, the men of Jamestown were so intent on finding gold that they had kind of neglected to establish a, toilet system, so outhouses and things like that. They had not adequately prepared for the winter. They did not start farming, and the Powhatans that were nearby were actually the ones who really saved them and taught them particularly how to plant corn, which was that's a New World food that the natives really were very, very good at growing. And so it took John Smith to kind of like whip these men into shape, to be like, hey, we need to do something, like stop digging for gold. Like, we already discussed you're not going to find it. He didn't know that either. B, you can't eat it, you can't live in it, So once they kind of stopped looking for the gold and took kind of advantage of what they had around them. But there were some starving times where they had I don't remember the numbers, I probably should have double checked, but they lost a lot of people in that first year at Jamestown because they did not take advantage and they did not prepare adequately for the winters. That although, I'm up here in upstate New York, our winters are really, really cold, and I think that Virginia winters probably aren't, but they're not easy, and you do need shelter, so they did not adequately prepare for those winters. So that's really what we're looking at here. This was just a really brief kind of introduction to the English in America. We will look at a few more of their settlements as we kind of continue on. I'll throw some quick videos on. This is just kind of an introduction. But again, we want to think about when the English came, they were coming for religious freedoms, and we'll see a little bit more about that when we look at like the Pilgrims of Massachusetts and the Catholics of Maryland. So we'll get a little more into that. They came for England not getting all of or Spain not getting all of North America. And they came for these economic reasons, like we've been talking about for gold. All right, so that's really all I'm looking to do with us today. I hope everyone has a great day. And if you look below, I will put a link to my website where you can find more information on the English in America, as well as many other things. So have a great day. Thank you.